Hello, and welcome to Spilling the Tea Leaves podcast. I'm so excited that you're here. Today's episode is going to be talking about divine feminine energy or feminine divine energy. And we are going to talk about what that looks like, what it means. I know a lot of us come into this spiritual realm and we don't know a lot of these terms or energetically speaking, what that's supposed to look like or feel like, right? So grab your cup of tea. I'm so excited, and let's jump right in. First, the intro. Hello, and welcome back to your favorite podcast, Spilling the Tea Leaves. My name is Michelle. I am a crystal Reiki master. I'm also a spiritual teacher and advisor. And this podcast is all about crystals and spiritual awakening. We are demystifying the mysticism. So grab your cup of tea or coffee or water or whatever you have handy, and let's jump right into today's episode. I am so excited. So pardon my voice today. I have gotten over this weird cold thing, and I'm not entirely sure why I keep getting sick. Maybe England is just not for me, and I don't know what I'm going to do about that, and that's okay. I actually just got back from Scotland a couple days ago, and it was so magical. We ended up going to Inverness, and we visited Loch Ness with my family. And it was so funny because there was this gentleman there that me and my brother, when we were younger, we constantly watched like Nessie documentaries. Do you remember that show, like Unsolved Mysteries? I mean, I'm a child of the 80s, right? So we used to watch all these like weird shows that would pop up on TV. And I specifically remember this guy. He's still there next to the river, next to the lake. And I took a picture. He does sell like these little clay Nessies, and I ended up buying one. I took a picture with him. I told him. Anyways, we fell in love with Scotland. I love Scotland so much so that I went with my sister-in-law and my family and my husband and my daughter. They ended up looking at property to purchase, apparently, because they just think they can buy property. I mean, it is fun to dream, right? So long story short, my husband ended up figuring out he's Scottish or part Scottish, like 5%, because he did his DNA test and it came out. But during the trip, I ended up getting sick. So if my voice does sound slightly different, please be patient with me. So I know these episodes are getting wider and wider apart, and I do apologize for that. I'm trying to be better, but it is just me. I do the recording, I do the research, I do the editing. It's just me. So it does help when you do leave a comment. If you let me know that you're loving the episodes, let me know via DM. Give me a rating wherever you're listening. It helps. Maybe one day this could be my full-time job and I can have episodes like every day. That would be amazing. That would be amazing, right? Anyways, today's episode is divine feminine energy. What does that mean? Like, what is that, right? Especially for a lot of you that are coming into this spiritual realm and are starting to explore and figure out what that means and what you look like on a spiritual journey, or what it means to be connected to the divine. If you're going to follow traditional practices, if you want to do witchcraft, if you just want to work with crystals and energy healing, what is divine feminine energy? So we're going to talk about that, and this is probably like my favorite part. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about different goddesses. I have like about 5 or 6 goddesses and ascended masters, because ascended masters are not just males as opposed to what everybody wants to make you believe. I want to talk about it. Maybe you find somebody who you think is interesting and you want to do a little more research, and maybe you want to dive in a little deeper, maybe figure out how to work with them directly or not, or maybe this is an episode to learn. So now next time that you're on social media and you read about them or hear about them, you kind of know what they're about, right? So What is feminine energy or divine feminine energy? Now, this is a spiritual concept that refers to the divine or spiritual energy that is often associated with the feminine aspects of the universe. There are a lot of belief systems that believe there is a duality, so male, female, yin, yang, black, white. Now, this energy is believed to be present in all things and can be accessed and harnessed by both men and women and my non-binary folks. So you don't have to be a female to be able to access this feminine energy. You don't have to adhere to any gender. You just have to be able to access it. You're available. You are a vessel. You can tap into it. Now, the divine feminine energy is often associated with qualities such as nurturing, intuition, creativity, empathy, and compassion. It is believed that when we connect to this energy, we can tap into our own inner wisdom and guidance, allowing us to live more authentically and maybe in an alignment with our true self. So while the universe is believed to be duality, and so are we. We are both male and female, masculine and feminine energy. Now, the keywords associated with this particular energy or with the divine feminine energy are words like healer, compassionate, creative, mother, soft, gentle, empowering, and sensual, to name a few. That's not the exhaustive list. Now, in many spiritual traditions, the divine feminine energy is often personified as a goddess or a divine mother figure, like Isis, Kali, or Mary. These figures represent the nurturing and life-giving qualities of the universe and are often associated with the cycles of birth, death, and rebirth. Keyword here is death. Right? So we often associate this feminine energy with mother and birthing and beautiful and giving life, but it's also associated with death. Now, if we compare divine feminine energy to masculine energy, which is traditionally marked by action. So male or that masculine energy is marked by action. Feminine energy is about letting it flow. Male energy is meant to do, to take action. Compared to feminine energy, masculine energy leans more towards logic, setting up boundaries, assertiveness, discipline, and survival. Now, this is not to say that feminine energy and masculine energies are exclusive to each other. But being able to access both is essential when we are exploring our own spirituality and living this human experience. Now, there are many ways to tap into this divine energy. This includes meditation, prayer, creative expressions. But by cultivating a deeper connection with our spiritual realm, we can access this energy to heal, empower, and even transform ourselves. So I want you to think back to just your regular life, right? Or a time in your life where if you are generally a soft person or a person who's very passive and loving, where you've had to set up boundaries, where you've had to be assertive, where you've had to say no, that is you tapping into that masculine energy of what we recognize as masculine energy. Or vice versa, if you are a person who tends to be very assertive, has a very healthy boundaries, good for you. A person who can get the job done, go in, very logical and do it, but now you're in a situation where you have to be kind, be compassionate, offer some grace to another person. That's you tapping into your feminine energy. And to bring it back to my own personal story, this is very much me and my husband, my partner. He is not because he's a guy, these are two separate, gender has nothing to do with the energy. But I tend to be very soft and nurturing. My business is about spirituality. My business is getting to know people and talk to people. My business is teaching. While he is a computer genius. He has his master's in computers, He does networking. He does all these wild things and is very, very, very logical, almost to a fault, where I've had to pull him back and I'm like, listen, you can't say that. That's not nice. You can't say that. He's like, well, it's the truth. I'm just being honest. It's not about being honest. It's about just softening up and being gentle on the other person. So yeah, think about that, right? So now that you're more familiar with the differences between what we consider divine, feminine, and masculine energy, I want to dedicate the rest of this episode to talking about goddesses and ascended masters. Now, this is going to be a really good opportunity for you to kind of explore goddesses. If you want to take a deep dive, it's going to be a little taste test for you, a little teaser. So if any of these pique your interest, then go for it, explore. I do want to preface and say that some of the goddesses that I'm going to speak of are part of a closed practice. So it is recommended that you go to a teacher of that religion, of a leader in that religion, if you are unable to find more information, or if you want to be able to work with this particular person in a more traditional manner. There are devotees to a lot of these, so you are going to find either a lot of information online, especially in social media, or you might not find any information at all because a lot of it is through oral traditions. Either way, this is your opportunity to explore. This is your opportunity to research if there is something that you want to continue learning, and maybe it's a path for you. So I'm going to start with one of my favorites, and I know you are going to love her too. So Oshun. Oshun is a Yoruba goddess who's associated with love, beauty, and fertility. She is known as part of a larger African diaspora, so you can commonly find her in things like Santeria, 21 divisions, and things like that. Now, as the patron of rivers and fresh water, she represents the life-giving power of water and the ability to cleanse, heal, and renew. She's also known as Our Lady de Caridad del Cobre, or the patron saint of Cuba. And it's no coincidence that Oshun is also referred to as the Queen of the Witches. She is a teacher of both magic and mysticism. Now, I did mention that she is the patron of river and fresh water, not to be confused with oceans. That is another goddess named Yamaya. Me and my daughter, when we go to the beach, any beach, although I don't practice in the 21 divisions or any sort of Yoruba influenced religion, I do always give thanks to Yamaya at the beach, and I encourage my daughter to do so as well. These are little things that you can also do if you want to partake in that, in that magic and in that gratitude. She is a teacher of both magic and mysticism, and Oshun loves casting spells, especially those related to romance and seductions. She is the granter of wishes and all of your heart's desires. When respected and properly invoked, Oshun holds the key to love, success, prosperity, and she is often called upon for pregnancy. That said, if you're trying to invoke this goddess, make sure that you're listening to this part. Make sure you always keep her happy. In other words, do not make Oshun a promise you cannot keep. Within these religions, there is the idea of gods and goddesses who are they're very particular. If you make a promise, you have to keep your promise, or you're not going to like what's going to happen next. Now, do not make a promise you can't keep her. Love her, be loyal to her, and mindful of your wishes. She's a goddess of love after all. To connect with Oshun, try spending time near a body of water, such as a river or a lake. Offer her honey, flowers, or tokens of appreciation, and meditate on the qualities of love, beauty, abundance in your life. Her feast day is September the 8th, which is my husband's birthday. Her gemstones are citrine, amber, and rudolite quartz, which are some of my favorites. I love the entire story around Oshun, and I hope if I piqued your interest, you'd look into her a little further as well. Our next goddess is, I'm going to pronounce in 3 different ways. Hecate, Hecat, or Hecate. Now, Hecate is an ancient Greek goddess associated with magic, witchcraft, and the moon. As a liminal goddess, she governs the spaces between worlds, granting her followers the ability to see beyond the veil and access knowledge. Hecate was or is usually depicted in Greek vases as a painting as a woman holding twin torches. Sometimes she's dressed in a knee-length maiden skirt and hunting boots, much like Artemis. In statues, Hecate has often been depicted in triple form as a goddess in crossroads. She, according to history or mythology, witnessed the abduction of Demeter's daughter, Persephone, to the underworld, and torch in hand assisted to search for her. Thus, pillars called Hecatea stood at crossroads and doorways, and perhaps to keep evil spirits away. If I mispronounced that, I am so sorry. To tap into her wisdom, try working with lunar energy, which you should probably be doing anyway. You can be conducting full moon rituals or rituals during new moon phases. Remember, full moon rituals is more of a gratitude and giving thanks and reflecting, while new moon phases are usually to invoke something new or plan for the next period. Meditate on the concept of transformation and change, and ask Hecate to help you navigate the mysteries of life with grace and courage. Now, big caveat here, there are many, many, many Hecate devotees, and you should be able to find a lot of information on her. So if this is somebody that you want to work with, learn a little bit about, there's tons of information, also misinformation. So be really mindful of of what you intake and what you put into practice. The next one is called the Morrigan. Morrigan? I know has to be a book or a movie somewhere. Please don't come for me. I don't watch a lot of TV, which is something me and my sister-in-law spoke during this trip to Scotland, where she's just thoroughly disappointed. But I keep seeing this cover everywhere, so I'm sure it has to be a movie or TV show or something. Well, the Morrigan is a Celtic goddess of war, death, and sovereignty. She represents the power of transformation and the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. The name Morrigan, which may have some variations in spelling, means great queen, phantom queen, queen of nightmares, or more literally, the mare queen. She may have evolved from the ancient territorial goddess Muman, who was associated with the sun and kingship in southern Ireland. She is a war goddess, and she is particularly associated with the fury of war, hence her demonic nature. And another name by which she is sometimes known as is the Queen of Demons. To connect with her, try working with crow or raven imagery, as these birds are closely associated with her energy. Meditate on the concept of courage, strength, and personal power, and ask her to guide you as you embrace your inner warrior. Now, the next one is a little bit more interesting. Her name is Sophia. Now, she is considered a figure closer than a goddess, maybe. But I do have to give you a little bit of background. And then for those of you who came from a Christian background may find this either super interesting or, like me, something I never heard of until I stumbled across it while I was doing research for a book. Now, Sophia is a Gnostic figure. Now, what is Gnosticism? Spelled Gnosticism. Gnosticism is the belief that human beings contain a piece of God, or what they know as the highest good, or that divine spark. So human beings all contain a piece of God. We all contain it within ourselves. But this piece of God, right, has fallen from the immaterial world, so from the heavens, into the bodies of humans. And all physical body is subject to decay, rotting, and death. Our bodies get old, they stop working, we get old. Now those bodies and the material world, because it's meant to decay, it doesn't last forever, our whole bodies are not God, were created by an inferior being and are therefore evil. Trapped in this material world, but ignorant of its statuses, the pieces of God require knowledge, or gnosis, which is where the word comes from, to inform them of their true status. So we need something to spark our knowing that we are gods. That knowledge must come from outside the material world, and the agent who brings it is the Savior or Redeemer. So essentially, we all have a small piece of God in us, but somehow we fell from heaven or the immaterial world into these bodies that were created by evil, and we need something from the outside, back from the heavens, to spark that godlike aspect of us. Now, Sophia is analogous to the human soul, but also simultaneously one of the feminine aspects of God. She is considered to have fallen from grace in some way. They don't go into details. And in so doing, she created help for the material world. She is representative of wisdom and spiritual awakening. So she is almost the bringer of knowledge, which is funny because if you think back to the Adam and Eve story, it's the woman, right, who pulled us away from grace. And in Gnosticism, it's the woman who's bringing us back. She is often associated with the divine feminine and transformative power of knowledge. To access Sophia's wisdom, it's recommended that we study the sacred text. We engage in contemplative prayer, engage in the concept of divine wisdom. By opening ourselves up to her teachings, we can expand our understanding of the spiritual realm and gain deeper insight into our own spiritual journey. Now, if this is something that you're just like, this is super weird, or I want to know more about this, go for it. There is the Gnostic Bible as well. I highly encourage you to go out and do a little research, do a little light reading, which is not light reading, and get back to me. Please, I would love to talk to you. It's so, I feel like for me, it's more complicated than it needs to be. I don't know if maybe in my old age, I don't have the brain capacity for it, but it's so interesting, but it's so much that I would love somebody to just explain it to me in a way that kind of makes sense, which, I mean, it's a big ask. I understand. But if you want to come on this on this show and talk about your knowledge of Gnostic religion, please, I will take you in a heartbeat and let's talk. Now, next one is Mother Mary. Yes, you knew she was coming. You knew we were going to talk about her. She is huge. I know within Christianity, she's just known as the mother of Jesus, which is already a big deal in itself, right? She's a central figure in Christianity. She is representative of compassion, nurturing, and unconditional love. Like I said, in traditional religion or Christianity, she is just known as the mother of their Lord. but many consider her an ascended master. Now, I know we are familiar, right, with the idea of Mary, but she holds so many titles: Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Lourdes, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, Our Lady of Sorrows, Our Lady of Luxembourg, Our Lady of Palmer, Our Lady of Miracles. I mean, it goes on and on. Our Lady of the Rosary. There is a lot, right? But within the spiritual community, she has come almost to a form of her own. While we do consider her an ascended master, she is almost a separate figure from Jesus, or what we recognize as Jesus to be. So she has her own followers. There is a nunnery of these lovely ladies, or nuns, who just follow her. Well, they follow her teachings. There's this group, and I'm trying to remember their name. If I remember, I'll make a note in the comments. But that just revere her as an ascended master, as one of the firsts. She is sought after for intelligence, miracles, parenting, and believed to support crystal and indigo children, which is going to be a whole episode on its own. I promise that is coming, because that's a big one. She is looked for healing and is often associated with crystals such as rose quartz and amethyst, and plants like rosemary. Hello. And rosemary has so many cures in itself. I'm so sorry, that was my watch. So many curative properties. A lot of healers work directly with the ascended master of Mother Mary. If Mother Mary is somebody that you want to work with, if it's something that you're interested in, personally, I find her to be quite one of the easier ones to be able to channel that energy, because she's so easily associated with that nurturing motherly vibe that she's almost accessible, and she's accessible to everyone. It's not a closed religion. You don't need to follow the Christian religion to be able to connect with that energy and work with her in your spiritual practice or in your healing practice. And finally, number 6, and this is somebody that I know many of you haven't heard of. I'm trying to keep this as open as possible so you can give yourself the opportunity to explore. I will put more in our show comments, so if you want to explore other goddesses and female ascended masters, you can. Now, this one, I know many of you have heard of Saint Germain. He's believed to be the keeper of the violet lights, but Lady Portia is almost his counterpart, or what they consider his twin flame. I personally don't believe in the idea of a twin flame, but to each their own. So Lady Portia is considered to be the goddess of justice and opportunity. Lady Master Portia, as she should be properly called, has served God, or she's believed to have served God, for thousands of years on the 7th ray of justice, freedom, mercy, forgiveness, alchemy, and sacred ritual. She has attained the embodiment of God flame and God consciousness of divine justice. She is known for bringing divine justice to earth and teaching us to attain harmony and balance. Lady Portia helps with releasing karma on all levels and teaches us how to forgive ourselves and others. Working with Lady Portia requires deep meditation and raising our own vibrations to meet her. She works well with those who are seeking her out with purpose, especially purpose of enlightenment or justice. And her crystals that work really well with her are amethyst, selenite, and quartz. Now, Lady Portia is outside of any traditional religion, and she's more connected to the beliefs of like I said, twin flames of energy, of the godlike nature of the divine, and how do I explain this in a way that makes as much sense, of dimensional beings, right? So Lady Portia is a very interesting ascended master, and one that's not commonly spoken about, but also somebody that can work with anybody. So if you're looking for something or someone that's outside of traditional religion, of more, I like her for energetic healers, for those who are looking for almost a connectedness or universal experience, Lady Portia would probably be my favorites. Now, I think that is it for our episode. I think I've talked your ear off enough. If you are interested in learning more about these goddesses and ascended masters, I will have a full blog post on my website, rememberlovehealing.com. I will talk about, I would have all the show notes there, including what I just spoke about. I'll also have a playlist available for you. So if you want to meditate with some music to try to connect with them, you're more than welcome to, and along with a few other resources so you can learn, you can work with these energies. And when I say when you're working with these persons, you're not going to, you may not see them, you're not going to see them, you're not going to have a whole moment where your lights are going to flicker on and off, but you may feel them energetically, you may get some messages, you may see some signs that know that they are there and working and helping you, guide you through what you need guidance with. Now, if you have any questions, make sure that you leave a comment. If you want to hit me up on my email, it is michelle@rememberlovehealing.com. You can also follow me on Instagram, Remember Love. I am on TikTok, Remember Love Healing. Let's see, I'm also on YouTube. And now I'm on Lemon 8. I'm not exactly sure what Lemon 8 is, but feel free to follow me there if you are on Lemon 8. And thank you so much for listening to today's show. It really helps if you give us a rating, and it helps if you leave us a comment. If I can do this full time, I would be so happy. I would just make episodes all day. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you next time. Love and light, and be kind to each other and yourself.